То, что происходило у нас, это был конец холодной войны и начало новой эпохи.
Мы были одна обыкновенная счастливая семья. Жили в доме, полном детей, пока не случилась бомбежка НАТО.
Все было настолько медленно, что мы могли видеть, как люди из городского правительства буквально взлетели в воздух.
В первые минуты я не понимал, жив я или мертв.
Жизнь – это когда мир, когда спокойно, когда все живут мирно, когда всем хватает еды.
Да има доста храни.
Она любила кататься на велосипеде, на коньках, любила петь и танцевать, любила играть на синтезаторе. Она самоучка, не ходила в музыкальную школу. Где-то за неделю до бомбежки Юлица сыграла похоронный марш на синтезаторе. Я подошла и спросила ее: «Что ты играешь? Что это такое?» Она сказала: «Я не знаю, что это такое, но мне очень нравится».
Она kaže da ne zna kako se zove, da se mnogo sviđa.
Марта – черный день для Белграда. В этот день начались бомбардировки.
24 марта, предвечер.
Мы каждый день вынуждены проходить мимо того места, где случилась бомбежка и где он погиб, и мимо его могилы. Мы похоронили его недалеко от нашего старого дома. Каждый день мы проходим мимо этих мест нашего большого... 1999-го НАТО заявляло, что операция продолжится, пока президент Милошевич не выведет войска из Косово. Милошевич согласился отступить. Из Косово ушли регулярные войска. Взамен югославской армии туда были введены миротворческие силы ООН. Он переживал за судьбу своего народа, говорят одни. Он был не уверен в собственных силах, утверждают другие. Возможно, те и те правы. Сам Милошевич объяснил все одной фразой. Когда у нас была Югославия и мы были едины, мы ощущали себя великой силой, способной свернуть горы. Теперь из-за нашей же глупости, национализма, нежелания слышать друг друга, Югославии больше нет, и мы – прыщи на политической карте Европы. В мае 1999 года Гаагский трибунал выдвинул обвинение против Слободана Милошевича. Ему инкриминировали преступления против человечности, убийство, преследование по политическим, расовым и религиозным мотивам, депортации. В обвинительном заключении говорилось, что он несет личную ответственность за нарушение международного гуманитарного права ввиду его высокого командного положения. Судебный процесс начался 12 февраля 2002 года и длился 4 года.
За несколько дней до того, как он умер, мы искали возможность, чтобы он поехал в Россию на лечение. Но наш запрос был отклонен. Я это понимаю. Но не понимаю, почему его не поместили в любую больницу в Гааге, где-то в Голландии. Я уверен, что он бы не умер, если бы получил медицинскую помощь в больнице. Я его встречал каждый день в течение 3 лет. Мы часто получали документы о его здоровье.
Ne plačem samo bolom svoga srca, rad zemlje ove uboge i gole. Mene sve rane moga roda bole i moja duša s njim pati i grca. Ovde, u bolu srca istrzana, ja nosim kletve sve patnji i muka. I krv što kapa s dušmanskih ruka, to je krv moja, iz mojije hrana. U meni cvile duše miliona, moj svaki uzdah, svaka suza bolna, njihovim bolom vapije i ište. I svuda gdje je srpska duša koja. Tamo je meni otadžbina moja. Moj dom i moje rođeno ognjište.
Silni oklopnici, bez mane i straha, hladnikovaš oklop i pogleda mrka. Vijurnu se tada u oblaku praha i nastade tresak i krvava trka. Zaljuljano carstvo survalo se sa vama, kad Oluja prođe vrh Kosova ravna. Kosovo posade nepregledna jama, Kosturnica strašna i porazom slavna. Kosovski junaci, zasluga je vaša, što poslednji beste u krvavoj stravi, kada trulo carstvo oružja se maša, svaki leš je svesna žrtva, junak pravi. Danas nama kažu, deci ovog veka, da smo nedostojni istorije naše, da nas zahvatila zapadnačka reka i da nam se duše opasnosti plaše. Dobra zemljo moja, lažu, ko te voli danas, taj te voli, jer zna da si mati. Jer pre nas ni polja ni krševi goli ne mogaše nikom svesnu ljubav dati. I danas kad dođe do posljednjeg boja, na ozaren starog orola s jajem, ja ću dati život, otadžbino moja, znajući šta dajem i zašto ga dajem.
Molimo samo za minut ćutanja žrtvama NATO bombardovanja. Dobar dan i dobrodošli na program sećanja povodom 20-godišnjice od početka bombardovanja naših krajeva. Välkomna till föredrag som ger oss en närmare bild av händelserna på Balkan 1999 samt dess långsiktiga hälso- och miljöförstörelser. NATO-bombningen började den 24 mars 1999, 1945, alltså idag för 20 år sedan, av Förenta republiken Jugoslavien, Serbien och Montenegro. Bombningarna pågick i 78 dagar till den 10 juni. Den materiella förstörelsen var enorm medan tusentals civila dödades och skadades. 20 år efter fortsätter Serbien och Montenegro leva med stora långsiktiga hälsoskador. Inte minst miljöförstörelse som är resultatet av NATOs användande av ammunition av utarmat uran. Vi ska idag höra på 2 föreläsningar. Historiskt perspektiv presenteras av Slobodan Jankovic, PhD, Head Center for Neighborly and country's research fellow, Institute of International Politics and Economics. Och hälso- och miljöpåverkan presenteras av Srđan Aleksić, PhD, jurist, advokatfirma Aleksić. Innan vi ger ord till våra gäster vill vi tacka alla som har hjälpt programmets organisation. Arrangör Foundation Empress i samarbete med ABF Stockholm, med stöd av Serbernas riksförbund, Serbisk-ortodoxa kyrkan i Sverige, Serbiska ambassaden i Sverige, Montenegro vänskapsförening. Filmen som ni såg i början var The Bombs That Blew Up Peace från 2017, Ukraina, regi Olga Lazernik. Och mot slutet av programmet kommer ni att se en annan film, Uranium 238, My Story 2018, en dokumentär om Serbien, och båda är textade på engelska.
Dragi prijatelji, dragi domaćini, pomaže Bog. Šjara svenska vänner, may God help you and thank you for coming here. My name is Slobodan Janković. You just hear where do I work. I've just published a paper regarding this sad and important issue of this tragedy that occurred to Serbia and to our people 20 years ago, and this tragedy started on this very day. Now, I would also first like to thank to the organizers and to our hosts, Ms. Jelena Mila, and to all of you who came here. I would like to thank also because I met so many beautiful people. Some of them are not here. I met Sunday yesterday. Here is also Mr. Žika Katanić, whom I met yesterday, and it happens so that we know some common people. I've met other people who are now in Malmö, and I'm really very glad to you for that. Now, coming back to the issue that we are speaking about now. First, a few comments on the film we just saw. This sad story is among many differently portrayed. But this story doesn't tell us, doesn't explain us why this happened. It offers us some glimpse, just some small details about how it happened, about what happened. But it doesn't give us a clue of the whole story. When we are trying to understand anything that happens in politics, in history, in our daily lives, we have 5 basic questions that are also the basic questions in journalism, but that should be also some basic questions for every researcher. And that is who, what, where, when, and why. The why is most difficult to explain. So I will now try to deal mostly with the question, why this happened? Why NATO, the greatest military alliance, who was wrestling with the USSR and the Warsaw Pact, ended up attacking a small country, rather small country, with a tiny population of 10 million people. So we should press F5, please. So this is just to show the disproportion of this war that started on this day. So here you see on the one side the countries that together attacked one country that was called back then Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, essentially Serbia and Montenegro. Please go On the map it is more clear. So it is not only the NATO countries, but also the neighboring countries under the influence of NATO who helped actively this aggression. So this proportion is even larger. Only Greece, who was and still is the NATO member, did not actively engaged in this war. So please, we can continue. So we are coming to the question, why? If you look at the map of NATO in 1990, then you can say, okay, it was a military alliance. Every military alliance says it's more or less defensive. There was Warsaw Pact, as you see with the red color, green color from NATO. But in 2009 and now in 2019, a few countries also joined. Here, Montenegro joined, and now the new country, Northern Macedonia, new by the new name, is on the path toward joining the NATO. So we see this expansion of defensive alliance. Against whom and for what reason? Now why, the story why starts very much before the time when this happened. Because story of NATO and Yugoslavia starts with the creation of NATO. Now, during the Cold War, you can see the territory of neutral countries, like is yours, Sweden also. So with the gray, the neutral countries. And Yugoslavia was one of them. So after 1948, after split in the communist camp between Stalin and the Soviet-ruled communist regimes, and the Belgrade communist regime headed by Josip Broz Tito, NATO, of course, was interested to support Yugoslavia as an alternative to Moscow, as a country that shows that the Eastern Bloc is not, unique, is not so solid. So we can go on. Of course, now we have declassified many documents. Here we have what British Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ernest Bevin, said of Tito in September 1949 while discussing the political and military situation regarding to Yugoslavia and to Europe. This meeting was one of the meetings that were putting on the grounds for the policy of NATO, because NATO was just created in April 1949. So as Ernest Bevin said, Tito was a scoundrel, but he was our scoundrel, our bad guy, not theirs. Please go on. First, the British started to help Yugoslavia with loans, with the money, and then, of course, much more was poured in from the United States. As you can see, in the period from 1950 to 1954, mostly USA gave $1 billion of primarily military aid to Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia, although under the communist regime, although officially not a member of NATO, in these years was effectively part of NATO, system of NATO alliances. And that's why even after Yugoslavia was supported by United States, many more billions were coming in to Yugoslavia from the West. So after 50s, of course, policy changed a little bit. Yugoslavia started to balance between Moscow and Washington, between East and West. But nevertheless, in order not to fall under the influence of the Soviet Union, it was held. And it was held still in the 80s. We have many now declassified CIA documents saying that there is instability in Yugoslavia. They were speaking of instability due to ethnic tensions, ethnic rivalries secessionist tensions by Croatians and Kosovo Albanians in 1980s. And in those times, when foreign journalists were writing about Yugoslavia, about the problems in Yugoslavia, like, for example, David Binder, famous journalist of New York Times, he was writing about the terrorist activities of the Kosovo Albanians, about the secession movement, and so on. All this happened in 1990 and in 1991. Why? The Cold War was over. There was no more need for Yugoslavia as a part of the southern flank of NATO. Warsaw Pact was dissolved, Soviet Union disappeared in 1991, so even the policy of the West toward Yugoslavia changed. Can we go on? Now, the media are very powerful in crafting the image that we have of what happens in some part of the world, in every corner. Here I wrote the question in order just to maybe to explain you what is the power of media. What do you think that currently is the worst humanitarian crisis in the world? Do you know? Some of you. The worst humanitarian crisis.
Syria? Yes. Jordan, Syria.
Syria, Yemen, that's it. Yemen, of course, Yemen. You're very good, very good informed. Some people say Venezuela now because of media. No, Yemen, of course. Of course, media, in order to prepare some events, they use, cliché, schablon. You need to put a bad guy and a good guy. And the Serbs were presented as a bad guy. Why? Well, a few processes were occurring simultaneously. There was unification of Germany. Here, I can't give you all the details now. You have it in my paper, not only in my papers, in many others, the testimonies of the people like French General Pierre-Marie Gallois, who was part of the meetings in 70s with the back then German Ministry of Finance and representatives of other NATO countries. And back then the Germans were speaking about the necessity to divide Yugoslavia and so on. So these plans were very old. And simultaneously, few actors had interest in order to dissolve Yugoslavia, to end with it. Now, of course, the internal reasons were that some of the peoples did not want to stay in Yugoslavia. So there are foreign and internal reasons. Now, the only nation that had a strong interest to keep Yugoslavia were the Serbs. Why? Because they lived all across Yugoslavia. And it was natural for the Serbs that they wanted to keep Yugoslavia together, to have their people, their nation, our people, live in one country, with all other peoples, of course. And that is why the Serbs were an obstacle for the division of Yugoslavia. They were an obstacle for the new processes of the dissolution of federations. We saw the dissolution of Czechoslovakia in 1993, dissolution of the Soviet Union as a federation in 1991, and the third federation that was dissolved is Yugoslavia. And as it happens, the war, civil war started. Now, NATO, for the first time in its history, started the, as they call, intervention, the attack, aggression, against Serbs, but not in Serbia. First military action outside NATO, and its first military action in its history was in 1994 and in 1995 against Serbs in the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now the second one, and the largest military action in its history, is the one in 1999. And I was asking myself, why this happens? Well, we can see. Please, yeah. We can go further. Go on. Okay. So we can, no, one step back, one step back. We have many people, many authors saying, you know, the NATO did this out of humanitarian reasons. They wanted to stop ethnic cleansing of Kosovo Albanians. And that is why. In the end, we found out that ethnic cleansing, or the massive explosion, or ran out, or we can portray it differently, the fact that many hundred thousands of Albanians went out of the province of Kosovo and Metohija happened during the bombardment and not before. The people who left before the bombardment were a couple of tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands. And it was because there was armed rebellion using the terrorist tactics, and of course when you have such a situation, you have military and police operations, and the people in the places where these operations occur, they of course want to escape. If we accept this fact that NATO is a humanitarian organization and it acts in order to save peoples, we have to ask ourselves, how come this same organization did not intervene previously in the Congo wars? War in Congo started in 1996, by far more bloody than all wars together in former Yugoslavia. How come they did not act in the bloody diamond wars of Sierra Leone, also by far more bloody? Later on, in Timor-Leste, with more than 200,000 of civilians that were killed by Indonesian paramilitary units. Why did NATO did not intervene? So we have to understand that NATO is not a humanitarian organization. It doesn't act because of some humanitarian motives. Now, please. So this is one of the explanations that in Western academia is mostly, portrayed. NATO was ashamed by the war in Bosnia, it had to act, and so on. But it is not ashamed by all these tragedies that happened before and after. Please, we can just one more. Here, for example, I cited what happened before this tragedy in Yugoslavia and before this humanitarian crisis in Kosovo and Metohija, what happened in Sierra Leone. And 2015 is the time that I took this sources from 2015, this news. So you can see here what happened in